Please Carry Sanders in Parkland, Florida, where hearts are still heavy. You're watching NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat.
Hey, it's Kirk Harnack with the Telos Alliance and weekend meteorologist at WSMV TV Nashville. You're watching NAB Show Live, produced by Broadcast Beat. Live from Las Vegas, this is NAB Show Live.
Welcome back to NAB Show Live. I'm Seth Hurst, from Chief Storyteller from Storytech Immersive, and I'm your immersive entertainment guy. Did you ever think in this world you would be able to choose your own reality without being institutionalized for it? Well, right now we're going to talk about augmented reality, or as they say in New York, augmented reality. So I have four great guests who are augmented reality experts. I just want to say to my guests this morning, one of the first headlines I read was about augmented reality-enabled transactions. So, making economic transactions in augmented reality, I'm like, now I'm starting to feel like my dad. I don't understand this stuff. Therefore, I'm never going to use an ATM in my life. That was my father. So I'm going to go down one at a time. We have Marsha Millett from AEMASS. We have Rosario Ballesteros-Casas from VR Americas. Josephine Munis.
Yes.
From Candy Labs. AR. Yep. Michael Kintner from Lively Labels.
Yes.
Great. Welcome all. Let's talk about what each of your companies does, and then we'll augment our own reality after that. Marshall.
I'm with a company called AEMASS, and we're based in San Francisco. We were largely a computer vision, computer graphics workshop, and we've developed a lot of augmented reality, virtual reality tools. But our biggest push is for very human-centric, volumetric video, spatial video technology.
Do you overlay AR with volumetric?
Yeah, so we have absolutely our goal.
First of all, for our audience, what is volumetric scanning?
So volumetric came from LA a lot, and there's different ways to describe it. But the main idea is how do you reconstruct a space so you can actually move through it entirely. But now how do you take that from just a static thing to video, to a complete experience that you're walking through and can see from any single angle.
In 3D stereoscopic?
It's can be viewed on a display as 3D stereoscopic, but you're creating the content from reality as a full volume. And so I could, for example, just a boxing ring, if I capture a boxing ring in volumetric, I can take that and turn it around and see it from any single angle I want as a user, because you fully reconstructed it. And it's video, so it goes forwards, backwards in time.
Okay, I'm still confused, but hopefully, I actually understood volumetric scanning is actually being able to capture the environment complete with its lighting and everything, and then being able to have a much more realistic experience by being in that. So obviously that's part of it, but not all of it.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, great. All right.
Well, we are VR Americas. We are an augmented and virtual reality company working to unleash the potential of the brain using immersive technologies, a lot of analytics, and computer vision to train workforce for industries where there are many risks involved, like energy, utility, oil and gas, and those industries.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to describe computer vision. Just so you know, I've been asked a lot of times, terms fly by, and it's like the audience doesn't know, you know, but they don't. So,
yes,
computer vision, please.
It is a way to create inside of your device the skills for the computer, for the mobile, for the phone, to understand the world as our eye understand the world.
So the computer, it's to get the computer to see as you see.
Yes, and understand this is a table, this is carpet. Creating the context for the computer.
Great. And is it combined with machine learning?
Could be, but it's not necessarily needed. We can also use the digital model of the components to make the real object inside of the device.
I'm just asking if it's like 3 steps closer to the singularity. No. Josephine.
Yes, I'm Josephine Munis, CEO of Candy Lab AR. We're a location-based augmented reality technology company. Our showcase product is AR Fuse that we're bringing to the world to developers so that they can create their own location-based augmented reality experiences. They don't have to be games. They can be any location-based AR experience that you want to create.
Describe what a location-based AR experience looks like. If you've never experienced it, how do you describe it?
If you've never experienced it, it's an experience of going from one location to the other to kind of get immersive content. You don't know what you're getting in most cases, but the story has been told by the developer, the game developer, a chief storyteller who wants a user to kind of feel an immersive experience when they go to a different location.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me see if I can get an example.
Yeah.
I'm touring Rome.
Yes.
You want to tell me what I'm looking at, or you want to, if I hold up my phone, it actually could reconstruct the Colosseum in front of me so I could see what it looked like before.
And it can tell you the story of the Colosseum. I think we can even bring it down to this show, NAB Live. It's a broadcast show. If you think about broadcast journalism and how you can make it more innovative, think about telling stories in locations. So if we have an NAB Live and people are in Vegas, you can tell them actual stories that happened in Vegas with a location-based augmented reality application. And you can do that with our technology. AR Fuse.
Are you listening, Ryan Salazar? Might be worth the discussion.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you technically how, like Michael's going to show us something, but how do you map the information to the location? Like if I'm walking along, that's a huge database. Like,
it is, and that's the one great thing about what we have. We have a real-time content delivery system, so you actually go into the back end of our portal and insert your content into the different locations using GPS or actual location data. We prefer to use GPS, the longitude, latitude, rather than using address because, we don't want to end up sending someone to the middle of the street. So if you use GPS, because you're using the mapping data from the government, you're putting them in the right place.
Okay, so Google has mapped the world.
Yes.
So there's plenty of those photographs.
Right.
So do you combine that Google database? Like say I'm going to be at the Luxor. You don't have to go to the Luxor, acquire that data. You don't have to send people out into the field, right? You could just go grab any sort of reference photo of the Luxor, marry it to GPS, and when I turn up, even if I wanted to, if I was the Las Vegas Tourist Authority, I get a little bing on my phone that says, do you want to know more about this? Yes?
Yes, or if you have the app on your phone and you're already within the experience and you know that, okay, I'm in the LA Tourist Live app, when you get to that location, you just open up the app and you're like, hey, I wonder what's here. And, you open up the app, the camera opens up and tells you that you're close to something, and directs you to that information.
This is so much easier than I thought.
Honestly, the developers, we do the hard work. On the consumer side, it's really easy. We already have consumers that are addicted to apps. I know I'm addicted to Instagram. So all you need is an addictive app
There's
to get people there.
Now.
Oh, I know.
Not only that, but because of today's society, they managed to cut the steps in half. So you only have to do 6, not 12.
Exactly. But we've made it easy for developers to get out there, use the technology, build the apps, and get users experiencing different AR experiences. Really.
This is great. I mean, I know that there's heads-up displays for autos. Mercedes has a heads-up augmented reality display. I know Microsoft has a ski mask that has information and speed. There are motorcycle helmets that have that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it was in my head. Now I think about driving my Vespa through a volumetric environment, and I'm thinking, brave new world. You don't even have to. And I'm not even talking about Ready Player One. I'm talking about right now. Michael Kintner.
Yes, glad to be here. Thank you.
A man of many talents, and I know Michael from 360 cameras and rigs and VR rigs. But when we were talking, you said, well, I have a company called Lively Labels, and we're taking augmented reality into marketing. So I don't know how you're going to show that, but take your best shot.
Well, what we'll do is I have a little video short to kind of show you how it all transpires in the real world. with
Okay.
AR world. But what's interesting about this is when we were out there doing a ton of research for our new 360 Penguin camera, we were talking to a lot of the consumers and trying to find a real affordable solution. Well, during that study, we discovered that a lot of people have these nice product boxes, and they want to be able to tell a story, kind of like My Brother's Keeper, it's telling a story about what's behind. So what we decided to do is create these little mini short stories that live on product boxes. So, for example, we have a little video coming up here, and it's going to
Okay, Steve.
kind of cue that up for us. So, and basically what this little video is about is how an individual can walk into a grocery store and literally kind of look at a particular box and watch it come to life. So if you notice, with a phone, you can see the little blueberry dancing around on the box. So it kind of gives a little story. Now you can add audio to this. You can add video to the, video little animation pieces. But the trick is to be able to lock that right onto the box and stay with that individual. So as you're looking at all the different products on the shelf, if I was going to buy a product there, which one do you think you would buy? The one that's animated.
I don't mean, I'm from South Jersey, so blueberry's a big deal where I grew up. But how is it that you're going to get consumers and modify behavior to get them to walk through the store and actually hold their phones up so they're looking for this?
See, that is the trick. It's another part of how do you work with people, how do you develop that audience to explain them through that. Like here's an example. I open up the refrigerator door and my blueberry comes to life.
You guys should be talking.
Yes.
What I see now is, and frankly, this technology has been around for a while, but I've not seen the animation like this. But for you to determine, like if you guys played together, there would be more value for the consumer.
Right.
You would come up with a reason for why they would want to hold up their phone and walk through the store.
Yes.
I hate the word gamification, but perhaps that's it. But something like that. I want to go to Rosario for a minute because we have some. I know we have 4 pieces, so I'm just going to ask Steve to run them one after the other.
Okay, that's
and
fine.
then you can tell us what we're talking about. Okay, Steve?
Okay, big part of the play, I think, is to make the people feel comfortable using augmented reality as part of it. The interesting thing is that, as well as virtual reality, augmented works like our brain perception. 360. It means we are not anymore talking about flat things, flat content. And our brain is that way. Oh. Then, even when our main application is the training, we are also helping the industries and the companies to try things. We were just launching for Telemundo, NBC Universal, something for the World Soccer Cup.
Okay, we have 2 clips, 2
That's
video
one of
clips.
those.
So let's run one clip first and let Rosario explain that. What are we watching?
This is what we did for Telemundo and the World Soccer Cup. That was just the launching of the campaign. There will be one content every week, and it's using social networks. That way people will use what they are really using every day.
The game card that they're standing on?
That's the album with the stickers for the World Soccer Cup.
Okay, so that is something that comes out every year that people are used to acquiring?
This is just a campaign for the World Soccer Cup. It's very Hispanic. It's important for
So people are used to
They
that.
love that. We love that.
Yeah.
Then we are taking advantage of the movement of the soccer to make the people aware of the augmented reality and the possibilities with simple things. That way they will try, they will test, and then we can move them to where we want them to be.
Okay, we have a fast 5-second clip.
This is also showing the same thing.
All right, so now we've established a few user cases, and I have to say, frankly, years ago I worked with Tim Kring on Conspiracy for Good, and we were using augmented reality with Nokia when it was Nokia that was still doing phones. That sort of became, what that turned into was Ingress. And Ingress was this game that was played by millions and millions, probably still is, of people around the world, but was kind of underground until Pokemon Go came. So do you think Pokemon Go, Marshall, do you think Pokemon Go has done anything for AR, or it came and went, or?
I think it still has a wide daily active user base. I mean, it spiked, and a lot of people got to explore it. And depending who in the industry you ask, they're like, "Oh, that's not real AR," or "It's something," but it was exposure to something that was cultural. So when you're talking about that action of asking people to do something with their phone, it absolutely proved that people will not only do it, they'll almost do it obsessively if it's the right thing.
So, in VR, a lot of what's sending VR forward is working with established IP.
Yeah.
So people recognize Star Wars, they'll run to the void to play in Star Wars.
Well, and you said something in the last section, and VR translates, we're connected as far as industries. You still have to tell a story. Yeah. And AR has two things it needs. Is one, you're watching media, so it still has to be emotional and tell a story. But two, there's an interaction. There's a mechanic that has to be successful for the user. And so focusing on those two, I think, makes successful augmented reality happen. But IP and talent, if you've got real people, noticeable brands, it's really attractive right away.
So you have Apple's AR kit, which I just witnessed on my upgrade. I had no idea what it meant. It said the Apple AR kit was upgraded, and I'm like, I don't know what that means, but good. We've been hearing a lot of hype about AR for like the last year. As a matter of fact, before MR, which actually is combining AR and VR, before that, you kind of had like two camps, and people were like, well, all the money's going to be in AR because that's going to move a lot faster than VR was moving it. So I want to ask, what do you think the barriers to entry are on the consumer side for people to start using AR? Not just from a story point of view, but from a utility point of view, like in their day-to-day lives. What are the barriers to that, Josephine?
I think it's the content. I think what we're finding is right now AR is only being seen as games because we saw Pokemon Go and now we know Harry Potter's coming out. So in people's minds, they think augmented reality is really only tied to games. But the truth is it isn't. It can be tied to everyday lives, and the experience can start in someone's home and then end wherever they end up, whether it's the mall, whether it's their friend's house. So I think it has to do with content and lack of content. And I think that's where we find that if we give developers more access to technology that allows them to create content and put content out there for the world, then we'll see this being used in everyday life.
Rosario, you work with a lot of enterprise. Is it like in virtual reality right now, there's more activity on the enterprise side. There's actually more money on the enterprise side right now.
Oh, yeah.
Could the same thing happen with AR? Is it happening with AR?
Yes, I really think so. Also, bandwidth and the relation between when to have it online, really online, and some industries that's a point there that we need to solve. But I really think it's very similar.
Barriers?
Well, a lot of the barriers is everybody thinks AR is gaming. So just like what you're saying earlier. So this is part of the reasons why during some of our research, we realized well, how can we take the gaming out of it and really show it with products and stuff in real life? For example, we've been working with some high-end like Siemens and Dresser-Rand, and they're really high-end, turbine manufacturers. And they said, well, Mike, how can we apply what you're doing with labels to something that we're doing in a real world environment? Well, what they can do is, and some of the things that we're experimenting with is a lot of products or valves, they all have labels on them some sort, so that the technician can actually go out, show the phone on it, and it would say, this valve should be operating at this level, this is the flow of the water, because a lot of the times you look at something and is the gas going this way, is the air going this way, what are the dangers and stuff, and AR literally allows you to mix your story, like what you're talking about, with realism, and then map it to that object. So it's powerful.
I'm going to take what you just said, and I'm going to go to you, Marshall, because now I'm thinking, I have seen some of the videos with the training and it looks like Google Glass, maybe Magic Leap will be doing this, and we haven't even talked about that, all those billions of dollars that have gone into that. But could you combine volumetric and AR for training exercises for the military, for engineering, and how would that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to the point, which is what are the barriers to entry here, I think, right now you have to make content. If you're doing 3D and putting it into AR, you're creating that content. And the majority of it has been fictional Whereas media kind of doesn't work that way in general. You take a camera, you shoot a thing, and you have it. So how do you take real life, convert it to that 3D, and be able to utilize it? So all of a sudden, if you can do that, from sports training to medical, happens pretty instantly, and the data becomes something you can utilize in an augmented reality experience.
Well, you know, the mind just goes crazy when you start to think of the applications, like, and I'm sure they're doing it in golf. I'm sure Callaway is there, where you actually see the arc of the ball in your glasses, and you see what you're doing wrong, and
yeah, that ability to completely explore that moment, it changes media entirely.
Because you would be able to see all the angles of your form.
Yeah, so you yourself, you personalize it. So the largest barrier we've seen is how does it matter to you, to anybody that's just out there anyway?
Why should you care?
Yeah, why should I care? And the main way media is working is selfie, right? I'm selfish. I'm taking a picture of me in front of something. So how do I get me into AR? And I think if you can figure out that mechanic, you've got people that are going to sign on, and they're going to be interested. They'll be obsessed.
Well, that is an interesting prospect. I'm just like thinking, yes, let's play off the selfishness of the entire world. It's very interesting. But I was going back for a moment to like the golf example, because and I don't play anymore. But like if you're swinging and all of a sudden you're able to look at your form and that form from different angle, and instead of the instructor having to be there with you, you're now distance learning. He's manipulating that. He's turning you around and he's saying, see the position of your back?
Yeah.
That's completely wrong.
Exactly correct. And also think of it as an overlay. If I did it once and I'm repeating that, I'm seeing what I'm doing differently each time. Like in a video game mechanic, it's ghosting. If you race and then you race your ghost, what if I'm doing that with my physical body and I understand I didn't lift my arm high enough or turn my ankle enough? And it's those spatial angles that is very hard to describe.
Okay, I just want to grab one thing. We don't have a lot of time left. This produces a heck of a lot of data, correct?
It does.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Where does that data go? Who owns that data? We're in this whole thing. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg testified before Congress yesterday. Now we're creating data about your physical presence, your body, your weight, all that stuff, just like medicine. What happens? Is this a self-regulating? Is AR now have to be a self-regulating industry?
I mean, we regulate our data. We work closely with our lawyers to make sure that we're doing everything right, even before we bring anything into the market. And we work with the legal team of our clients as well to make sure that we are protecting our consumers' data. For sure, it's owned by our client. It's owned by us. Is it owned by the consumer? That's a discussion that we're having right now with legal.
Great.
That's a discussion that has to be had.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I also think how valuable it is for you giving your data for something.
Yeah.
What are you really receiving?
Yeah,
If
what's
as
the
an
exchange?
employee I'm trained and I'm having no risk learning how to do my job, giving some data of my interaction around
Yeah,
it.
but there has to be these limits around. I mean, okay. Back to the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Okay, very quickly, we have like less than 2 minutes left. I've asked every panel, every segment that we've done, a year from now, where will we be with AR? Just take your best guess. Marshall.
Well, we're very interested in humanizing it. What we discussed. How do people get access to the tools that they can create holograms or AR or volumetric, whichever category. And I think that will be available in the next year. So we'll be able to test what people like and how they're going to engage in that socially.
Rosario.
Mobile. I really think that must be mobile.
Okay.
I think it's going to be something that we don't expect, because as a company like ours with ARFuse.com, we are giving the technology to every developer out there.
So this is open source.
It's not so much open source because there is a paid part to it.
Okay.
But what we're doing is saying, here, developers, go wild. And so if you think about developers in Africa, developers in India who don't have access to this technology, and then they're going to get it and they're going to start prototyping, we have no idea what we're going to see next year. It's going to be super cool.
I just think of the wonderful implications for social good.
Yeah, exactly.
And being able, and education, and being able to learn, and being able to see and get the cultures and understand what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Michael.
Well, I think a lot of it is, like we were saying earlier, it's massive data, just tons of data ingestion. And with 360 video, we've already experienced that between one camera, 2 lenses, 10 lenses, 24 lenses. So we're all trying to start working with all of how to deal with data management.
Yeah.
And I think what's coming from the 360 world has kind of helped us in the AR world on to be able to manage all that massive amount of data. So I think you're going to see bigger drives, faster systems, and cooler phones.
Excellent. Michael, Josephine, Rosario, and Marshall, thank you so much. This was an amazing and lively discussion. Everybody, you can actually get AR on your phone right now. It is possible, so get out there and play. You're watching NAB Show live from the Las Vegas Convention Center, and there's more to come. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.